What's up, Exotics fam? Welcome back to the channel. My name's Jeff.
My name is Jeff.
My name is Maddox, and you're watching Exotic Idiotics.
Okay, so today we kind of wanted to talk about a common question that we get a lot, and that is if kids should have exotic pets. Because a lot of people, either on YouTube or in like our Discord community, which you can join, we'll leave a link down in the description below if you'd like to talk about exotic animals and stuff. And then our neighbors also know that we have a lot of these animals, so a lot of times I will get asked, should I get my kid this? Or what would be a good lizard for my kid? Or what would be a good this for my kid? So we thought we would just go ahead and make a video talking about, should you really get anything exotic for your kid? Or should you get them a hamster or whatever? So, you know, are exotic pets good for kids? The short answer, in our opinion, is yeah. We think they are.
But it is complicated. There's hundreds of aspects that go into it. It depends on the age of the child, what kind of things the child is into, and many more. That's just all I can think of on the top of my head.
Yeah, there's a lot of different aspects to it. So stick around, and we're going to give you, in our opinion, a bunch of different kind of pros and cons to kids owning exotic animals. Okay, so the first thing we wanted to talk about are some of the reasons why parents typically don't want their kids to have exotic pets. And I think that the first reason, probably the biggest reason, is I don't like snakes, I don't like lizards, I don't like spiders, I don't like this. And it usually comes from a fear. You know, like a lot of people are scared of snakes or scared of tarantulas or whatever. Would you agree with that?
Yes, but when he says that, he's not talking about like a phobia, because if somebody has a phobia of something like that, you can't really do anything to get over that. But what he means is a fear of misunderstanding. Such as with snakes, you hear all these news stories, giant snake breaks out and eats owner. That doesn't actually really happen that often.
Right.
But you think it does because you hear about it that one time, and then you're like, oh my god, the snake is gonna get out and eat us, we can't get one.
Well, there's a lot of myths surrounding snakes specifically, that when they're laying next to you, they're sizing you up to see if they can eat you. Like, that's not true. Like, the snakes are not, like, they're not trying to eat you. They're not trying to size you up. That is a very common reptile myth. But those are the types of stories that make the news. And in the internet age, it's all about how many people click on your stuff and how many people read your article. So nobody's gonna say, responsible pet owner does free exhibition of snakes and free educational seminar and nobody got hurt. Because nobody cares about that. Nobody wants to hear about that, right?
That's what news do. They always clickbait you because it's all about clicks.
It's all about clicks.
In 4th grade, I put, how big was he? About 8-10 feet?
Something like that.
He probably weighed about 20 pounds or so. Big old snake around my neck, and we had a school assignment. It was a 5th grade, and it was pause for reading and PAWS, like read to your pet. And I was like, Dad, come here, help me get the dog to hold still. And he was like, if we're doing this, we're doing this right. And I read The Sneetches on the Beaches by Dr. Seuss to him, and he loved it.
Yeah, I mean, loved it.
Loved
I mean,
it.
he tolerated it.
He had the biggest eyes, he was adorable, and he just loved interactions with us. Like, he was such a sweet snake.
Yeah, he was. And I mean, you know, like you say, you know, he loved interactions with us. Most reptiles, there are some reptiles that will learn to enjoy human interaction. And I'm not talking about specific species of reptile as much as I'm talking about a specific specimen. I know people will talk about like tegus. Tegus, generally their personality as a species, if they're taken care of and they are socialized properly, they typically will act like they enjoy the interaction. We had one that when I opened the cage, he'd come right out, crawl on my lap, and get up on my shoulder and just chill. But that's not necessary. That doesn't mean that all tegus are going to be like that. Typically, you find a reptile and it is tolerant to handling. It's not tame. They are not tame. But a lot of times with the fear, It's a misunderstanding.
It is a misunderstanding.
Do you remember when we first moved into this house? Most of our neighbors, they knew we had reptiles because
Terrified of snakes.
Terrified. They didn't want us to move in. They didn't want us to bring any reptiles. And after we started taking snakes and showing it to them and teaching them about them, they started asking us to come over and hold the snakes and check them out because they understood them better. A lot of times the fear comes from just not understanding the animal.
It truly is an irrational fear. Irrational fear. I'm stuck in my throat. And it's just not fair to the animals, and it's not a fair reason to say no to your child when asking for an exotic pet. Another common reason parents would say no is because they either don't know how to take care of it or think it may be a pain in the butt to take care of. And what I mean by that is, if you get a dog, you feed it, give it water, you train it to go to the bathroom outside, you let it out every couple hours, and that's all there really is to it. But with, let's say, a bearded dragon, you may not know what it eats, how often to feed it, how big of a cage it needs, and all those aspects that are commonly misconcepted and gotten wrong.
Yeah, and I think that even if they learn what it needs, they look at it as being expensive because it can be. You can buy a bearded dragon for $50.
That's a pretty
50, 60
point,
bucks
yeah.
usually if you just go to like a PetSmart or a Petco, one of the big box stores. But then when you start talking about the heat lamps and the UVB bulbs
In
and
a
the
75-gallon tank.
Well, in a 75-gallon really still isn't big enough. A lot of people will say a 40-gallon. We have ours in a 40-gallon right now because it was a rescue, but we're planning on putting him into a 4x2x2. So he's the next one that's going to get an upgrade other than a couple tarantulas who just need to be rehoused. But it can be expensive. The initial setup cost is expensive, but what they don't think about is it's a lot less expensive to care for them long term. Feeding them is less expensive and stuff like that. But, a lot of people don't want to go into a reptile store and drop $400 or $500 on a lizard or a snake or something.
I'm the kind of person that would love to do that. My Euromastix, she was about $200 and a $350 setup.
Yeah.
But I was willing to spend that. I had saved my money for 3.5 months and planned on getting a Euromastix because I wanted one.
Right.
And if we're talking about bearded dragons, another thing is feeding them can be quite difficult because they will eat hundreds of things and it's hard to find a good balanced diet for them.
Yeah, a lot of people, it's not, you don't just buy a bag of dog food, or a bag of bearded dragon food. They have prepackaged diets, but that's the most expensive way to feed them realistically.
And part of the way they live their life is they just enjoy hunting. He loves to hunt. He's pretty bad at it because he's fat and slow, but he does enjoy it.
Yeah, so I think that if you take the time to understand the care requirements, that kind of eliminates a lot of that.
And another thing is, people will say, no, I don't know how to take care of it, but then they won't do research on it. And that's a big problem with the exotic reptiles industry is there are some animals that people want because they look cool, but they're not available enough to know how to take care of them properly. People haven't had them long enough, stuff like that. And then there's things like bearded dragons or crested geckos where there's so many care guides. One could be telling you to do this and another could be telling you to do the exact opposite, and it can just be a good conflicting point.
Absolutely. Another reason that I hear a lot from parents is, why would you want a lizard or a snake or a tarantula or something? Because they don't show you any kind of affection and they're not cuddly like a dog or a cat. And I get that. I do understand that. I think a lot of people, when they think of having a pet, they are looking at it as something that's emotional.
And we'll love them back, quote unquote.
Right. And when we keep exotic animals, I think it is more, it's not about an emotion, it's about a reward.
Right.
You're keeping these things alive. They're interesting. They are something that, the kids in the neighborhood love to come over here and come down in the basement and they ask us thousands of questions. They want to learn about it. And that's the big benefit to me.
I've even gotten some of my friends into them. Like, I had a friend over earlier, and he was like, oh, we might be getting a snake in a few months because of your inspiration and all this stuff that we have down here, and they want to be just like us, which I think is cool. We're growing the hobby, getting people into it.
Which was part of the goal with the channel to begin with. And we are going to post a video after this one that we're going to talk about some great exotic animals for kids that are not often talked about.
So, here to disprove your theory that they will not sit with you and are super chill and kind of fast, speedy, not friendly animals. This is Timon. He's our Peter's banded skink, and his name is Timon. He's kind of got that meerkat pattern.
Let me see this. I'm gonna put him closer to, and you can see, just give you guys kind of a close-up of his pattern. I mean, super pretty animal, and he's been sitting here on the table off camera for
the entire time, just about.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm petting him, I'm touching him, he's not moving. Here, you can take him, you can put him on your shoulder or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, is that cuddly? Is that emotional? Is that affectionate? No, not really.
I mean, sometimes, like with dogs and kittens and stuff like that, you think, oh, well, I want him to cuddle because he's fluffy and soft and he looks like he loves me back. He may not look like that, but I would think that it is much cooler. And if you want to get in with the cool kids at school, just grab one of these guys, throw him on your shoulder, because that's much cooler than walking your dog, something like that. Now, don't buy a reptile because you want to win a popularity contest. That is not what I meant.
Right.
It certainly does help, though. Now, another big reason that kids should have exotic pets is it allows them to explore and learn about a field that most other kids their age probably aren't ever going to learn about or ever be involved with.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll never forget this because you're a good kid, okay? You're polite, you work hard, you get good grades in school, and that's another reason that I allow you to do all this, because I don't have any reason to take it away from you or stop you from doing it. If you weren't getting your homework done because you were too busy with the animals, then we might have a problem. But somebody said something to me that really kind of made it click and inspired me to make a video like this. They said, I love my grandkids, but I wish that I could have interesting conversations with them the way that I had a conversation with Maddox. And it was because, Maddox was talking about keeping his tarantulas and all this different stuff, and not just, you should get a spider because they're so cool. It was like this species, this, and New World versus Old World, and all this different stuff. And she was like fascinated, not necessarily fascinated with tarantulas, but fascinated with the fact that this young kid was teaching her about it. And so I'm not saying you should buy your kid a reptile to make them more interesting, but I am saying that if it's something that they're into, let them explore that and let them learn and let them expand their minds and let them grow. Let them out of the box, man. Let them get away from just dogs and cats and rodents,
Snake food.
Yeah.
All it is snake food.
Snake food. Because that's what, as parents, that's our number one job, to keep our kids safe, obviously, but we want our kids to learn and grow and learn more about the world. And these are all animals that inhabit this world with us. Why should we not learn about them? Why should we be scared of them and not allowed to have them? So, yeah, I mean, that was just another reason that was what inspired me to make the video.
Yeah.
Is because that really just resonated with me, that she was able to have that conversation with you and she was like so impressed with your knowledge. And if I had never let you explore your love of animals, then you would have had nothing to talk to her about that she found interesting.
Thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate it. It really helps us out.
Yeah, and I hope that you guys learned something in this video, or at least were able to see a different perspective. And like I said, we get asked questions a lot, both on the internet and in person, about these animals and why we want them and why we keep them, especially the tarantulas and scorpions. Somebody asked us today, we have a Deathstalker scorpion. I'll leave a link to the video right here of the unboxing of that animal. And somebody was like, but it can kill you and you can't hold it and you can't whatever, so like, why do you have it?
Because it's fun to watch it eat
They're fun to watch eat, and we enjoy learning about them.
Not everybody has those, and so specifically with something like that not a whole lot of people have, except in like scientific research facilities, because they're trying to use venom to cure some kind of disease. It is great for people to have them and learn about them and see how they react to different things, because that can really help other people who are in the hobby that maybe want to get one or are having a problem with one.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know this video was a little bit different. There wasn't a whole lot going on. There wasn't a whole lot of action, but we just felt like it was a video that needed to be made. And because we are kind of a father-son duo, well, I just mean, you know, like all of our videos except for like one, we're both in, we're doing this together, and it's a good bonding experience for us.
It's a great bonding experience. And it is if you have a kid, and it's a great bonding experience.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we even yesterday we were building that enclosure. I mean, well, I was building the enclosure.
I was on the edge of my seat the whole time.
Yeah, waiting to see it because I surprised him with like a new enclosure that I did a custom build on.
New video coming soon.
Yeah, right. But for our next video, we're actually going to talk about, it'll be a little more exciting because we're actually going to show off and talk about some exotic animals that are often overlooked, but we believe, and well, you believe, this is all going to be from his perspective, from a kid who actually cares for these animals. Some good starter, beginner, exotic pets for kids that are not talked about very often. I know a lot of lists will have crested geckos, a lot of lists will have bearded dragons, which I don't really agree with.
Crested geckos, bearded dragons, leopard geckos.
Yeah,
and that's pretty much.
And I don't really agree with bearded dragons specifically because they need a varied diet and they need a pretty big cage, and they're not the best beginner pet. Crested geckos are pretty good.
Crested geckos are amazing.
They can eat packaged food, but we're not going to talk about those because we're going to talk about some that are not always on everybody's list that we keep and we think would be great pets for kids. So make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you don't miss it. And thank you again for watching. We will leave links down below to our merch store and our Discord and our Instagram. All the things. So you can check us out on there. And feel free, if you have any other pros or cons or any other reasons why kids should or shouldn't have exotic pets, drop a comment below. We would love to hear from you guys. We are in this hobby and we are making videos like this because we want to kind of educate people, but we also want to learn from you guys. Like, I mean, there's probably some stuff that we didn't even think of. You might have a reason in your head right now. Well, that's all good, but like, I wouldn't do it because of this. I want to hear that. He wants to hear that because there's stuff that we've never thought of, and we're not trying to tell you go out and buy all this stuff just because we made this video, because that's not what we're trying to do. But we just wanted to give a little bit of perspective, kind of talk about both sides of the coin, and give you a little insight into why we have decided to do this together and why I have decided to let Maddox explore this. So thanks again, and we will see you guys next time.